Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Sumukascha Ekadantascha Kapilo Gajakarnakah Lambodharascha Vikato Vignarajo Vinayakah Dhumaketurganadhyakshah Palachandro Gajananah Vakratundah Surpakarno Herambah Skandapurvajah Shuklambaradharam Vishtum Sasivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarvavignopasantaye Yasyadvaradavakradhya Parishadhya Parastatham Vignam Nignanti Satatam Vishwaksenam Tamastraye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheswarah Gurur Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Satchidananda Rupaya Krishnaya Aklishtakarine Namo Vedanta Vedhyaya Gurave Buddhi Sakshine Krishna Dvaipaya Namjatam Sarvabhuta Hiteratam Vedabcha Bhaskaram Bande Samadhi Nilayam Munim Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Dharmaha Prochita Kaitavotra Paramo Nirmatsvaranam Satam Vedhyam Vasavam Matra Vatsa Sivadam Tapatrayon Volanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikrute Kimva Parairisvaraha Sadhyo Hridi Avarudhyatehe Atra Krutibhihi Satsrushabhihi Tatshanate Nikama Kalpataror Galitam Palam Sukhamukat Amrita Dravasam Yutam Pibatat Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Mugaraho Rasikaha Bhuvi Bhavukaha. With Bhagavan's grace and Sanugraham, let us continue from where we left off in our last session. We came up to Slokam number 40 in Adhyayam 26, Skandham number 3. Kapila Bhagavan's teachings on the tamasic aspect of Ahankaram we are covering. And that is where the Pancha Tanmatraygal and Pancha Bhudangal and Pancha Jnana Indriyangal are manifested from the tamasic aspect of Ahamkaram. Okay, the Prakriti has got 3 gunas. Now we covered in order of the evolution or the manifestation or the appearance of the Tanmatraygal. The first one was Sabdam. Then the next Tanmatray was Sparsam. Then after that, Rupam. Today we will take up the next Tanmatray from so now Rupam, each one of the Tanmatraygal from one of the Panchabhudangal appeared from it with the passage of time, with as destined and divine and determined by Bhagavan. From Sabdam came Akasam, which the closest word I can think of in English is space. Now, interestingly, from space, which is one of the Bhudangal, appeared a Tanmatray. Okay, that is Sparsam. From that Sparsam came Vayu. Now, from Vayu came Rupam. And from Rupam came Agnihi. Along with this, the senses of perception that we have, that also came about, which Bhagavan is going to teach us more a little bit later, is from Akasam, Sabdam, Akasam, and from Akasam, we also have the Stotram, the hearing sense, the sense of hearing, right? And then same way, from Sparsam, Vayu came, and the skin, that we call it as touch, for us to feel, the sense of perception. Then from the Rupa Tanmatray came Agni, the Tejas. Now that the sense of perception corresponding to that are our eyes. Another point that we must note, very important, because please keep this in mind as we come to the grossest of all the Panchabhudangal, which is our Prithvi, okay? And because that is what we relate to, the materials. I can tell you, if I tell you a table or a block of brick or a stone or a human being, immediately we can realize it. But what does it constitute? So that is what we're arriving at. So the important thing to note is the tanmatrai of akasam, which is sabdam, is also in the tanmatrai that came out of akasam, and therefore from the vayu. The vayu has got two tanmatrais. Okay, both the sparsam as well as sabdam. Agni has got three tanmatrais in it. Please remember this. This is very important to understand as we see how beautifully and wondrously the evolution, the creation is taking place. Now, with that brief review and introduction, let us move on. So we will take up with Swami's grace 41, 42, and 43. I want to keep with one tanmatrai and one for the Panchabhutangal for every session for purpose of clarity. Otherwise, we can easily lose what Bhagavan is saying. So, 41 is from Rupa Tanmatrate. That is what it begins. As determined, as commanded by, as designed by, is a law. Everything is a divine design. But Bhagavan, the Rupa Tanmatrai, which is also subject to change. All the Tanmatraigal, everything we have seen, they are all subject to change only. Remember again, review an important reinforcement is the only avikara tattvam, the only thing that does not change is a mahat tattvam, which is a divine command. It's a divine order, not only an operating principle of our universal life. It's a divine order that I must obey, the rule of sharing love, okay, and expanding love, but spreading love. This is what the divine command is. Okay, now that is the only thing that does not change. Everything else changes. Please remember this. Okay, so as per divine design, the thing that is subject to change, the Rupa Tanmatrai, the Rupa Tanmatrai we already finished. As subject to change, as designed by Bhagavan per divine design. From Agni, which has got the Rupa Tanmatrai, appeared the Rasa Tanmatrai, the one of what we call as taste. And from that Rasa Tanmatrai came Jalam, which we call as water, and corresponding sense of perception, the Jikhva, our tongue. So the Jalam and the Jikhva, the tongue, together enable us to perceive and experience the Rasa Tanmatrai, the sense of taste. Okay, that is 41. Rupa Matrate Vikurvanate Tejasaha Daiva Choditat Rasamatram Abhut Tasmat Ambaha Jikva Rasagraha is perceiving taste. So the perceptions, right? We need to have both. We need to have both water and the tongue. The taste, the sense of taste. The sense of taste has already come. But how do I perceive it? How do I cognize it? That is what the other two contribute to that. Daiva Choditate. Okay, Daiva Choditat. The Daiva is divine. And Daiva Choditat means as designed by Bhagavan. Daiva Choditat per divine design. Vikurvanat, undergoing change. Tejasaha, Rupa Matrat Tejasaha. Rupa Matrat, which has evolved from the subtle sense of form, Tejasaha, the Agni, or Tejasaha Rupatanmatrat, if you put it in our English way, Tejasaha Agni, Rupamatrat, which has got the Tanmatra of Rupam, form, Daivachoitat, per divine design, Rasamatram, Tasmat, Rasamatram, the Rasa Tanmatra, the one of taste, that Tanmatra, Tasmat, Abhut, it appeared, came out of that Agni, which is the Rupa Tanmatra. Okay, I hope I have not confused you. From Agni came the Rasa Tanmatra. Very important to understand this. All the others were adjective to Agni. Okay, it happened according to divine design. Not only that, from that Agni itself came Ambaha, which is water, Abhut. Water also manifested from Agni. Now, Jihva, our tongue, also Abhut. It also came up, manifested in order to Rasagraha, to perceive the taste. Now, the tongue described as an instrument for acquiring perception of taste, knowledge of taste. For us, we all know that. Because taste is a product of water, that is why there is always saliva on the tongue. To put it with a very simple connection. Okay, the connection that's much deeper than that. Just a physical example. Let us review that slokam. Rupamatrat Tikurvanat Tejasaha Daiva Choditat Rasamatram Abhut Tasmat Ambaha Jihva Rasagraha to perceive taste, to imbibe it. Now, next comes, what is this Rasa Tanmatra? See, the way Bhagavan is teaching, there is a slokam that describes the characteristic, the lakshanangal of the Tanmatra. Then the succeeding slokam describes the characteristics of the Panchabhutangal, one of the corresponding Mahabhutam that corresponds to that Tanmatra, and how does that Bhutam act, the activities of that Bhutam. Okay? Yeah, so that's what the same order is being followed. 42. Kashayaha, Madhuraha, Tiktaha, Katva, Amla, Iti, Naikadha, Bhautikānām vikārena rasa ekaha vibhidyate. Kashayaha, Madhuraha, Tiktaha, Katva, Amla, Iti, Naikadha, Bhautikānām vikārena rasa ekaha vibhidyate. Now, this taste is only one. There's only one taste, which is, actually speaking, the raso vai saha, Upanishad says that. That rasam is nothing but madhuram, sweetness only, prema only. That is the only taste there is. But this is the interaction with the material world that is manifesting in 6 different types of tastes. That is what rasam is talking about. It's very important to understand. After I finish this slokam, I will quickly share an anecdote with you with Bhagavan's grace. Okay? If you want me to do that, that will happen. Kashayaha, Madhuraha, Tiktaha, Katva, Amla, Iti, Naikadha. Now, Bhautikānām vikārena, very important. Bhautikānām vikārena rasa ekaha vibhidyate. Vibhidyate means to undergo change, differentiation. Rasaha ekaha. There is only one rasam that came about. Okay? Everything is divine. And the only divinity only manifested. The ekaha rasam, raso vai saha. Please remember that. Madhuram, which is selfless love. But bhautikānām vikārena, bhautikānām means the various materialistic objects that we have in this world. Various. So many types of them are there. Because vikārena, and they all undergoing changes. Continuously everything undergoes changes. Vikara means to undergo change. If the same thing, if nothing changes in the world, what will be our taste be like? Just imagine for a second. Because these things change, and chemically we know, chemical equations, we know that because of that, the different tastes arrive. Bhautikena vikarena, bhautikanam vikarena, because of the changes that various materialistic objects undergo, ekaha rasaha, the one rasam, vibhityate, is multiplied, differentiated into 6 different tastes. The 6th one is not given here, but we have to include it. Kashaya, the kashayam we take. Kashaya taste is like a little bit acidic, right? And it could be a little bit bitter, kind of that combined taste is kashaya taste. Madhura has sweetness of sugar. We all know that, right? Then tiktaha is bitterness. Next one is tiktaha. Then katva. Now, katva is what we call as quite pungent, something that is extremely hot. We call it hot, not temperature hot, but the chilly hot. That is katva or katu. It is called, not katva is a combined word. Katu should be pronounced. That is called pungent. Okay. Amla, we all know that is sour, and then there is salt. See, iti, katva, amla, iti. The iti includes the taste of the saltiness. So again, reviewing that, the taste of kashayam, which is slightly acidic and bitter, madhura, the sweetness, then bitter taste, pungent taste, sour taste, and salty taste. Iti, all these, naikada became na ekada, then one became many. Okay, one rasa taste, ekaha rasam, interacting with the materialistic object that continuously change, gave rise to these 6 types of tastes. So this is the definition of rasa tanmatrai. Whether if I take a bitter gourd and it tastes bitter, actually I like it. It is actually sweet to me, the madhuram, not sweet in the sense of sweetness of sugar. No. But it is sweet in the sense it's attractive. That sense of attraction that we all like in the various types of food that we have, even though it's made in different ways and all that, that fundamental element is ekaha rasaha. Please remember that. That manifested into bitterness, into sweetness, into pungent and salty and sour and all that. Kashayaha, madhuraha, tiktaha, katu, amla iti, naikadha, bhautikanam vikarena rasa ekaha vibhidyate. Okay. Now, this is the taste. What about the next one, that from taste comes water, right? Jalam, ambaha, ambasaha. So what is the characteristic? How does this, the bhutam, one of the panchabhutangal, this amba or jalam we call it, how does it behave? How do I know that something is this jalam, the panchabhutam called jalam, and how do I know something is panchabhutam called vayu, right? How do I know that? So that's why the characteristics are given. How does it act? So from its activities, we know this is jalam. The jalam is acting here with the tanmatra of taste. So that is now, plus the other tanmatra is also inherent in it. That is why we need to relate to the tanmatras and the panchamahabhutanga. The moment I start looking into it, my mind will automatically think of tamasic aspect of ahankaram, how I'm separating myself from all these fundamental principles, mahatattvam. My mind should go back to that operating principle. This is the teaching and the guidepost, a Google map, if you would, okay, for us to get back home. Number 43. 43 talks about what are the characteristics of jalam, amba. Moistening, we know that, right? It makes it wet, moistens. Then coagulation. In other words, if you take some dry sand and put water in it, you may get mud out of it, isn't it? Or in cooking also, we take dry flour and add water to it. Immediately it becomes a kind of a pasty kind of a thing. That characteristic is a characteristic of water. The characteristic of water is also to wet things, to moisten things. Then another interesting thing is the water's characteristic is it gives you satisfaction. Imagine, amazing it is. See, we all take water for granted. But actually in our Vedic mantras and all that, water is, my God, worshipped so much, unbelievable. Even in Sadhyavandana mantram and even Yajna mantram and all, we do puja and all that. This prayer to water is unbelievable. Okay, it got so much power and potency. But in our daily life, water always gives us tripti, or one sense of satisfaction it gives us. Okay, whichever way we use it, whether we take a bath or drink a glass of water, whatever it may be, right? It is really, or even we get hurt or we want to remove some dirt from us, that water gives that sense of satisfaction, triptihi. Then the next word is pranana, apyayana, undanam. Prananapyayano undanam, right? Prananapyayano undanam. Pranana, apyayana, undanam. Now, the very interesting thing is, we all know that without water we cannot live. Even very simple thing is, if you go on a fast, for example, like people are fasting, body becomes weak, there's no food that goes into, and breathing becomes also quite weak and all that, right? But you take a little bit of a water at that time. Immediately what happens? That supports the life, that supports all the senses. You may not get all your energy back, but definitely it supports the maintenance of the life that is Vichana, which is pranana. Apyayana is the aspect of water that refreshes us, that rejuvenates us. And undanam means water also softens things. Anything that is hard, for example, you add a little bit of water to it, it immediately becomes a little bit softer, isn't it? So then kapa apanodaha. Kapa means heat, apanodaha means it drives away, it removes heat, it cools things down. Then another interesting thing is bhuyastvam. Bhuyastvam, we have to understand this very carefully. Bhuyastvam means present in abundance, but it also means something else. In addition to being present in abundance, okay, it does not mean water supply in this world is limited only, but it is abundant, plenty of it there. So, for example, if we dig a well and there is water there and you take the water out, what happens to it? Some more water comes and fills in place. So the water is a characteristic of replenishing whatever has been consumed. And this is what happens even in our life, right? The whole rain cycle depends on this. The water that has been consumed, it gets replenished. Whatever has been depleted here on the ground gets replenished with rainfall, assuming we follow dharma and all that. But that is a characteristic of water, is that. These are the characteristics given. Again, I'll review this. First, I'll review it in English, and then I'll take you through the Sanskrita Padangal. Water's characteristics, okay? The activities, so to speak, of water are moisten, to coagulate things, to give satisfaction, to support the maintenance of life, to refresh, rejuvenate, and to soften things, and also to replenish that has been depleted. See, Agni doesn't have that characteristic. Okay, once you put out a fire, it doesn't come out again. But water is not like that. Once you take out water, more water comes. So that is what bhujasvam. Ambasaha vruttayaha tu imaha. Kledanam, to moistening. Pindanam, to coagulate, like making a mud out of dry sand, right? Or making to making roti, for example, to atta that you add water, right? That aspect, it joins together, that coagulation. Triptihi, giving satisfaction. Pranana, to supporting the maintenance of life. Apyayana, the apyayana, it means to refreshing, rejuvenating. Undanam, softening. Tapa apanodaha, removing heat, driving away heat. Apanodaha means to drive away. Tapam is heat. Bhuyatsvam, replenishing what is being depleted. Ambasaha, for water. Waters, vrittayaha, activities. To certainly imaha, these are the activities of water, of ambasaha, which came from the tanmatrai of rasa matram, which itself came from Agni. Okay. Kledanam, pindanam, triptihi, pranana, apyayana, undanam, tapaha, apanodaha, bhuyatvam, ambhasaha, vrittayaha tu imaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Santi Santi Santi. Harihi Om.